Hello and welcome to the Practical Leadership Podcast, where I interview great leaders and try to extract their wisdom and experience for you to learn from and hopefully avoid making their mistakes. Check out practical-leadership.academy because you want to help your new managers succeed with hybrid or remote working. Paul Teasdale, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Paul. Appreciate it.
Would you be so kind? Would you introduce yourself?
Well, I'm Paul Teasdale, and I help people perform. That's my reason for being and my purpose in life. I've had a varied career, everything from sausage making to container shipping, international dairy export, banking, and 6 years with Formula One team McLaren. And from there, I've gone independent, and I now work for myself, helping others to perform. That's my.
I've got to ask, which is the most informative? Was it sausage making or was it McLaren? Do you know, there's something about sausage. You never want to find out how sausages are made or laws are made, right?
I to this day have no problems whatsoever eating sausages. I would have to eat, I would eat them on a daily basis as part of our quality control processes. I have full trust in the whole process and the people alongside it who make them as well. So depending on which brand, etc. But yeah, it never put me off.
Fabulous. Nah, I'm a steak man myself, but I like a good sausage now and then. That's it. Yeah. Having two small kids, they just, my God. The number of sausages these kids go through. Can I put it on a stick?
Yeah.
Okay. Dipping it in all sorts of stuff. What point in this varied and multitudinous career of yours did you first become a people manager?
From a people manager perspective, it was actually in the sausage making days. So that was my second role that I took. I had a role in an aerospace company that was repairing and overhauling aeroplane engine parts. It's my first ever job, but I moved into Kerry Foods, who make the Walls and Richmond sausages, as part of their graduate scheme, and joined them making sausages in their plant in Manchester, and started off with a small team in what they call the meat prep team, and I grew from there, making a lot of the specialty sausages and things like that. And by the end of it, I had a team of about 60 odd people working for me across 3 shifts. And a lot of learnings in that space from a people management perspective.
So these were people actually making the sausages, putting the ingredients together, sticking them in the skins?
Yep. So everything from the meat prep teams who would actually get the meat out of the freezers or the fresh meat, depending on what it was, and mixing that and putting the recipes together, all the way through to the teams who are on the line. And there's a lot of manual putting of the sausages into the actual packages and things like that at the time as well. So big teams, lots of hard, quick work, manual labour, but some fantastic people and some fantastic learnings with it. So
that's excellent. Wait, did you inherit that team, or was it one you had to hire in and build up?
I inherited it. I was on the graduate scheme there, and it was very much a case of, look, I had a sort of mentor and support from some more experienced managers, but my role started off as a shift manager. So I had another shift manager who was a lot more experienced, who I got to learn from there, all the way through to managing multiple shifts and things like that. So yeah.
One of the more interesting, I'm not to say that sausages are not interesting, not the slightest. Don't go there.
Yeah.
But one of the more perhaps chat-worthy elements to your career there was the time you spent with McLaren.
Yes.
And that's all about performance. I mean, the Formula One is all about performance, and that's your gig as well, helping people perform and all that.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to a new people leader with respect to that role, with respect to your knowledge and the experience you've gained?
Yep. Experience very much plays a part in this, as in I've learned the hard way here. Be humble, be honest, and be kind. Sort of 3 key things that maybe reflecting back, I had some opportunities to improve in those areas. But the other practical tip I would give, and I give a lot of this to new managers in particular, is look for frameworks and models and things, the reasons behind approaches working, because those are the things that you can fall back on in situations that you weren't quite expecting, or you've gone into a new situation. If you've got a model or a way of working that helps you, it really is a crutch to help you through those uncertain times.
Do you have one or two in particular that you would follow on?
So a couple of key things. I was working with a client the other day on some ideation, and how do we generate a lot of ideas, but then get down to what we're actually committing to doing going forward. And I'm a very simple man, so it's what we could do, what we think we should do, and what we will do. So it's going through. We're now in the process of all the things we could do. So it's no idea is a silly idea, lots of idea generation. The things we should do are where we start to prioritize those areas and actually whittle them down into some key areas. And the commitment area of what we will do. What is it of those should? Because there's lots of things we should do, but actually, what is it we will do and are committing to doing? So that's one of the simple pieces that's seen me well over the years. And the other one, I guess, is the piece that I'm working on a lot at the moment is my own model that I'm trying to help people with, which is called rapid performance. And that's taken a lot of the lessons from that world of Formula One in terms of the data-driven world that we live in these days. How do you get performance and data-led, data-supported performance where data is actually the very last thing on your list? And that's what the rapid performance framework's all about. So it's about results, actions, people, insights, and then finally data. Because what we're finding is people are not only data rich at the moment, they are, I came across a great term of infobesity. People are infobese. There's so much, there's so much coming at them at that tidal wave, trying to drink from the fire hose, those sorts of things, where there's too much out there to actually make sense and to actually drive that into performance. So by taking this rapid approach, I help people to keep performance front of mind with those results. Think about the actions that they can take that have an impact on those results, the people who are involved in making the decisions and enacting those actions, and what insights do those people need in order to make the best decisions. And it's only when you get down to that insights level and say, right, what's the minimal, smallest data set we can possibly have that will drive those insights for us? And that way you are focusing on the right data and also the smallest possible data, so it's a lot more manageable, a lot more digestible.
Okay, I like this. We're going to dig into this. Let's go back to this and do this again. All right. Now, number one, I love the ideation, generating practical ideas, could do, should do, would, will do.
Yep.
The prioritization bit is always the trickiest bit there, isn't it? That's working out what to do first. Do you know what? That's one for another call, another conversation. Let's look at rapid. I like this. Results, actions, people, insights, and then eventually data. Because as you said, infobese, my goodness. So much information out there, so many reports. I mean, my background's in revenue as well. We get drowning in information.
Yeah.
Where do you start? What's the thing? So let's take us through this then. Results.
Yep. So results is all about really defining and really being clear on what you're trying to achieve, but also how you want to achieve that. So it might be, use the F1 type examples. It's championship points for what you're after. That's the high level result that you're driving towards. But you also need to consider how you're going to achieve that as well. And what I mean by that is, what are some of the regulatory frameworks that you have to work within, but also what are some of the strategic priorities that you have as an organization? So McLaren had a very strong sustainability focus. So it's like, how can we achieve those results in a way that is also in line with our strategic objectives, which is, being sustainable and doing everything in as sustainable manner as possible. And so you can actually start to break this down with a sort of results hierarchy, things like strategy mapping, for instance, is another sort of mechanism to help people to align the high level results they're driving towards with the next level of results that impact on a sort of team or department level. And typically what I would help clients do is, like, whatever you want to do in whatever it means to you at that time is high performance. You're after that high performance. It might be a successful project, it might be profit, it might be a sustainability focus that you're after. And that can generally be broken down into effectiveness. So am I getting the result that I want? And efficiency in terms of am I doing that with the best use of the resources at hand?
Okay. So you know where you're going.
Yep.
And you know what you want to achieve, how you want to get there. Actions then.
So actions are starting to think about the levers at your disposal. Mm-hmm. What are those things that you can do? So typically, F1 examples as well. You're talking about everything from the design of the car. That's a lever that you've got to push and pull. You can all the way, and that's a longer term sort of decision. You can have strategy decisions in terms of how you want to set up your chassis for the year, how you want to set up your powertrain, those sorts of things that are, once you've made those decisions, it's difficult to change them a lot during the racing season. You can then have more design, shorter to medium term sort of actions at your disposal where you can design new parts, test them out and see what's what. And then you've got operational actions, which are the things that tend to be more reactive. So when the plan doesn't go quite as you wanted it to, what do I do now? Do I pit when the safety car comes out? When I go to pit, what tyres do I put on? So I'll have had a plan in the first place, but actually I've got to react to the moment, to the race you're in.
The momentary tactics.
Exactly. So
right.
It's and so that you might, everything from, if you start to apply that to organizations, that can be everything from your governance, your policies. These are actions that you have at your disposal that you can decide to make changes in those areas, all the way through to where do you prioritize your resource? Do we take, if you've got a smaller team, for instance, do you take resource from one part of the team in order to prioritize somewhere else and support and prop up another part of the team? These are things that you can do, the meetings that you run, the way in which you have interactions with people, your clients, etc. These are actions that have an effect on the result that you're trying to drive.
Okay, so then from results to actions, and then from actions to people.
Yep. So this is truly understanding people. People make decisions in organizations. If they don't, it's automated. But most organizations, most teams, people are the ones who are making decisions at the end of the day, and people are the ones who are enacting those decisions. And people are not completely rational, and they're not completely predictable in all sorts of ways. So you've got to understand everything about how people make decisions, how teams work together, how they are managed, motivated, remunerated, all sorts of things that help drive the behaviors that actually lead to what could be the best actions or the best decisions in play. So this is about truly understanding the people who's involved. How do I get the right people involved? How do I get the right people in the right places? What capabilities do I need? How do I set up my team to be high performing? How do they communicate with each other? All sorts of those areas.
That's the Stephen Covey, get the right people on the bus.
Precisely, yeah.
That's the one, okay. So results, actions, people, insights.
Insights. So I'm a man of simple definitions quite a lot of the time. So data for me is what. It's the what of what's happening. So it's the facts and figures, the raw things that are describing the situation. Information is where you bring a bit more richness to that data by giving it context. So reports, for instance, classic bit of information. You're providing context of the data and maybe bringing it together and presenting it in a slightly different way. Whereas insights actually help people make decisions. So they support a decision in some way or other. And where the world of Formula One and the modeling and analytics that they do is really sort of cutting edge in this space is the predictive analytics part of insights. Can you predict what the outcome would be if you made a certain decision? So, for instance, you might say, right, if I pitted now, am I likely to come out in heavy traffic or in clean air? Am I going to come out ahead of a competitor or something like that? So that you can constantly run those models in that world and actually say, right, the insight is pit now and you'll come out into a bit of fresh air, but actually you might need to pit again because of the way that the tires are wearing compared to how we thought they might be. And so those models are spitting out those insights. In the world of business, it can be much less advanced than that, but it can be things like if I work with a client that had a global resourcing issue in terms of getting in recruitment and selection was their challenge, really. It's getting people in, but also where do I put my global resource to help where I've got those gaps? So can you provide them with insights, or the organization with insights around not only where in terms of the volume of those roles are, but what are they in terms of the criticality of those roles, and where do we see the severity of getting it wrong? So you can start to bring different bits of information and maybe present it back in a way such as a map, a visual aid that actually says, actually, the decision you're after is really about this. That you need to put all of your effort initially into one region rather than another because of X, Y, and Z.
I've always been cautious about, again, because of the revenue function, so many reports out there. You've got to ask, why do I have this?
Yeah.
Do I have this just because I need to have it, or because you think you should have a report? Am I going to use this to make a decision? Is it going to inform a decision or not? If it's not, and it's just for pretty, why bother?
Yes, precisely.
Yeah. Okay, so that's insights. I love data being raw data and numbers, statistics, info, the contextualization of the data, and then insights, the helping you make a decision data. Yeah. I like that. Yeah. That's really good. And then, so lastly, then you move on to the data piece.
Yep. So this is where it's like, what is the data that's actually required to drive the insights that your people need? And this is where you can do things like strip out a load of reports, or at least put them to one side, or not put them in front of your managers. So data is pretty much free these days, and a lot of software that's out there reporting is, at the drop of a hat, you can create a different report. And I've worked with a lot of clients where they get a new system in play, or they're working with something like Tableau, or something that's very flexible. And the IT guys say, well, fantastic! This is fantastic bit of software. It can generate any report you want. And managers and leaders are going, well, I don't know what I want. If I can cut things in every possible way, I can't see the wood for the trees. I don't know where to go. So you're starting with the data and going that way. And if you start with the insight and say, I want to know this, then your IT data team can actually support that and add value in that process by saying, right, if that's the insight you need, we need to generate that by pulling these bits of data together and presenting it back to you in this format, this frequency, whatever that might be. But that should be, at least for the leader, the smallest possible data set, because otherwise you are exposing them to far too much, and it actually has a detrimental effect on the decisions you make.
I mean, it's also then you start getting into the realms of modeling, and as soon as you start thinking about modeling stuff, well, it's just all wrong.
Yeah.
All models are wrong. Some models are useful, but all models are wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. And quite often I've worked with a few clients about you can have data that is 100% accurate and absolutely useless.
Yeah.
If your people don't trust it. That it's more useful if it's 80% accurate and your people trust it, because they will actually use it, and they will use it in a way that is of value.
That's fascinating. Rapid performance. From when your how-to there is what? It's how to build data-driven performance. But you don't. I mean, I never liked data-driven. I prefer data-informed.
Yeah. It is definitely data-informed, data-led. Again, is probably a bit. It's about putting data first, whereas this is about data being a servant to the results that you're trying to drive.
Yeah, I mean, it's the problem of first things first. First things first, and you get lost everywhere. You have to know where you're going before you get in the car. Yeah,
exactly.
Was there a particular mistake in your varied career that you learned a lot from?
Probably one of the earliest ones, and it goes back to that point about being honest and being humble and things like that. I walked into the meat prep team at the sausage factory, and I was still wet behind the ears from university days, and my manufacturing methodology, my textbook work said, right, I can make these guys more productive by changing their brake system. So I'm just going to watch them, not say a word, didn't involve them, didn't tell them what I was doing. I just stood there with a clipboard and watched them and saw how they did their brakes. And then I got them in a room later on and said, right, great news. We can get performance up. It's just you've got to change your brake to here, and you've got to change your brake to there, and you guys go brake together. And that did not go down well.
I can imagine.
Yeah, so it's about and in the conversation, and at the end of that conversation, I at least felt I was humble enough to go, sorry guys, I was trying to do a good thing. I've done this all wrong. Let's start again. Let's work together.
Oh, bless.
And they and then took some insights from those guys in terms of what is it that where do you see the opportunities? Where do you see the issues that need resolving? And sure enough, all the answers were there, and just needed to be aired and supported. And for me, taking what little leadership role I could at the time, actually influencing some changes that helped get them the right tools in place, get the right processes in place with other departments to help them perform at their best.
Yeah, I think that's one of the good questions is, where are the most promising, unexploited opportunities for growth? Yeah. And the people who do the job, they always know.
Always.
Well, we're doing it like this, but that doesn't make any sense because, well, okay.
Yeah, and they can't. Most of the time they can articulate it perfectly. A lot of the time they don't, in terms of they don't not necessarily talking about a solution or that we need to do this to resolve it. But your job as a leader is to listen to the struggles that people are having and the challenges that they have. Just even those things like, when I get a plan delivered from a previous department or tells me what I'm doing for the day, it's in a format that I can't read properly or doesn't match up with what I need to do in the next steps in my process. And so if you can listen to what are those challenges, where are people putting extra effort, particularly in things like translating data and information and insights, if they have to put mental effort into translating that into something else, that's a prime opportunity for you as a leader to go, right, I'm going to make sure you get that data or that information, those insights in a manner that supports your performance.
Yeah, excellent. What are you working on at present? Developing the Rapid Performance Framework, it sounds like.
Yeah, so the Rapid Performance Framework, I've got that as an online course, so that's out and available.
Link will be in the podcast.
Yeah, fantastic. And I also do workshops and talks and things on that particular topic for clients, everything from sort of half-hour inspirations, learnings from F1 type talks through to multiple modules breaking down that rapid performance and helping people work through it, and going through some coaching and development with people on that, as well as various other lessons from the world of F1, which about how do you become a better leader in the world of F1, how do you use data to drive culture, all sorts of different lessons that I've taken for working in that high performance environment that I think can be really applicable to modern day business.
Is there something in particular you would like to thank the young Paul for having done?
Taking up some new opportunities. I think there were a few left field opportunities that came my way. A prime example, I was, after the sausage making days, I was in consultancy for a number of years, and decided that we were going to make a move, myself and the wife, and moving out of London as well, because we'd been there for a while. And we said, Manchester, Oxford, where do we go to? There's different places we can go around the country. And we went to New Zealand and went to Auckland and took a chance on, some opportunities that sort of came our way, and we didn't have a clue what we were doing. Said, right, let's give it a go. We'll give it 2 years maximum, then we'll come back. And it was 5 years later with a little Kiwi boy in tow that we came back, and I joined McLaren. So yeah, take those opportunities, take those big leaps, and say yes more. Yeah, and that's a lot of the things I thank my younger self for, are saying yes to some of the opportunities that came my way.
Excellent. And then lastly, your coordinates. How can people find you, Paul?
So LinkedIn. So I'm doing more on LinkedIn these days than I ever had. I've got my website, which is paulteasdale.co.uk, where you'll find both the info on the Rapid framework, as well as links to my podcast as well. So I do a podcast on helping people perform. And so, yeah, you listen to some of my insights, but my conversations with others on that theme as well. So, yeah, but don't be afraid to reach out.
Paul Teasdale, thank you very much indeed for joining me.
Thanks very much for having me, Paul.
That's a wrap. Thank you for joining me today. Your homework is to leave your 5-star review, and please, any comments you have, you really help me to improve every day, and it also helps people to discover me online. You should check out practical-leadership.academy because you want to help your new managers succeed with hybrid or remote working.